review application materials provided, hear the staff presentation and any presentation from the applicant, and then hear public testimony. Next, my fellow commissioners and I will discuss the matters before us as they comply with the land use code and review procedures. In doing so, please note that the code and other regulatory prescriptions provide certain criteria for approval that we must consider. We have town development staff in attendance tonight to both provide us with a presentation regarding the agenda items and who will lay out the criteria and parameters for approval. They will also answer the board members' questions. Once the staff has completed their presentation, the applicant will be permitted to provide information about the application. After that presentation, the public hearing will be open. If you intend to speak during the public hearing tonight, please sign in on the sheet here that's on this little black lectern. We gain insight from the information and viewpoint the public provides. Your input is welcomed and appreciated. If you wish to speak tonight, you'll be recognized by me. When you come to the lectern, please provide us with your name and then provide your address. We ask that you keep your comments relevant to the matter discussed, and we ask that you direct your comments to the members of the board and not the applicant or other speakers. You have 3 minutes to speak. We know that the matters discussed sometimes raise emotion, but we ask that we all remain considerate of those speaking during this process. Okay, now to the item under consideration. Berthoud Planning Manager Tom Hildebrand will introduce the variance application. Ms. Hildebrand.
Okay, good evening, Planning Commission. Tom Hildebrand, Planning Manager. Okay, this is the B-Town Automotive Setback Variance. The vacant 0.51 acre property is located at the southeast corner of 2nd Street and Franklin Avenue. The property is currently zoned M1 Light Industrial and is located within the Innovation District of the 1st Street Corridor Overlay. Adjacent properties to the south and east are also zoned M1, while the adjacent properties to the north and west are currently zoned M2 Industrial. All adjacent properties are developed with commercial uses except for the vacant property directly to the north, or to the east, I'm sorry. The applicant is requesting approval to deviate from the required 20-foot corner side setback through the variance process to allow a proposed commercial building to fit onto a property the applicant purchased. If approved, the result will be a placement of a building 10 feet from the north side corner property line where 20 feet is required. This would be a 50% reduction in the minimum building setback required by the development code for the M1 Light Industrial Zone District. The subject property is Lot 1 of the Marshall Minor Subdivision. The Marshall Minor Subdivision was approved by the town in 2013 and resulted in the creation of 2 lots, including the subject property and the vacant lot directly to the east. As part of the 2013 subdivision process, the town required the dedication of an additional 7 feet of right-of-way for Franklin Avenue. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. This right-of-way runs along the north property line of both lots. Dedication of right-of-way is a standard result of the subdivision process, and this would not have been out of the ordinary or unique to this particular property. The standard right-of-way dedication allows for the full build-out of applicable road, such as the location and maintenance of wet utilities and the installation of detached sidewalk and tree lawn when the adjacent property develops. It is staff's understanding that the current property owner purchased the lot in 2022. Development Code Section 30-3-104 establishes lot and density standards for the M1 Light Industrial Zone District. This includes, but is not limited to, required minimum building setbacks and minimum lot width. In defining setbacks, the Development Code distinguishes between side and corner side setbacks. The side setback is for the internal side lot line shared between 2 lots, while the corner side lot line refers to the lot line along a right-of-way or road that intersects another road at the corner of the property. In this particular case, the lot line adjustment adjacent to Franklin Avenue would be defined as a cornerside lot line and is the subject of this request. Sorry, I'm having issues with these slides. Typically, the corner side setback is larger than the internal side setback. The intent for having a larger setback on the corner side is to maintain a clear sight distance for vehicles as they approach the intersection. Per code, the required minimum corner side setback in the M1 zone district is 20 feet. As noted just a moment ago, the lot and density standards also address minimum lot width requirements. The required minimum lot width for a lot located in the M1 Light Industrial Zone District is 50 feet. The subject lot is in conformance with the minimum lot width requirement at an approximate 92 feet wide. The development code does not currently define a minimum lot area for the commercial or industrial zone districts, including the M1 zone district. However, the lot area, again at 0.51 acres, is consistent with other lots within the surrounding area. As a reminder, the applicant is requesting a reduction to the corner side setback from 20 feet to 10 feet, a 50% reduction. The reduced setback would allow for the construction of building the applicant would like to place on the property. If the requested setback variance is approved, the applicant would submit for site plan review for the proposed new development. The applicant is not currently pursuing site plan concurrent with this request. The building permit process will also be required for any new building. Section 30-3-108A2 provides a review criteria pertaining to variance requests. This section states that to authorize variances from the terms of Chapter 30-3 zoning, where strict enforcement of this title would create a situation which would result in unreasonable application of these standards, the Board of Adjustment shall consider whether criteria A, B, and C are met in either D or E. The specific criteria and staff analysis have been provided in the staff report. Again, the BOA must find that the criteria for approval has been satisfied in order to approve the B-Town Automotive setback variance request. The staff findings presented in the staff report are provided to assist the Board of Adjustment with their evaluation and determination. Staff provides suggested motions as seen on the screen and in the staff report. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Commissioners?
And I guess I should also say that our town engineer, Luke Sieber, is also here should you have any questions about like the right of way.
Commissioners, do you have questions?
Not at this time.
I have a few. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And if you could go back a couple of slides where you showed us the
Yeah.
depiction of the setbacks and that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's there.
That one? Or do you want their exhibit? This
That
is
one.
the applicant's exhibit.
This exhibit. Okay. What I'm trying to understand here is the right-of-way, 7 feet.
Mhm.
If you had to show us where that was on this depiction, where would that fall? Within that first 10 feet?
No, so the right of way as right now as it currently exists and as it's defined is actually the same, that orange dash line
Okay.
that denotes their property line. So that's their property line, and then on the north side of that property line, that is the beginning point of the right of way, which then extends across Franklin and then into the other sidewalk, I suspect.
Okay.
But that, yeah, they touch. So the 7 feet, if you were to measure from that orange line 7 feet, that was what was dedicated initially across from 20th all the way, or 20th, 2nd, all the way out to 1st. It would be a 7-foot strip that would have been dedicated back in 2013.
But it is within the 20 feet of what the setback would be.
No.
No, it's not?
No, so when you do a right-of-way dedication, it adjusts that property line. So at one point in time prior to 2013, that property in particular would have been 7 feet wider. So, but because then they went and dedicated additional right-of-way, it moved that lot line 7 feet in, and now you get the current configuration. So if it was, I think I said 92 feet wide approximately, it would have been yeah, 99 or whatever that is, whatever that math is. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling
You're
sharp
doing
right
great.
now.
You're fine.
Yeah.
So, but, okay,
No, go ahead.
so any impact on the circulation? Because, you know, if you make it wider, then the view for the drivers will be reduced. Is it correct do I understand?
So generally, that's why, yeah, the side corner setbacks are generally larger.
Yeah.
The intent there across the code is so that it ensures there's always that sight distance, that nothing is obstructing it.
Yeah.
In this particular case, when we received the application, of course, it's reviewed by our referral agencies, one of which is Luke Sieber, our town engineer. And he confirms if he suspects there's issue or this could potentially cause sight distance issues, he would have expressed that. But Luke did not have that concern at this time. We also evaluate sight distance triangles and sight distance at site plan review to ensure that, yes, the building is appropriately set back, as well as landscaping. Oftentimes, we see landscaping create sight distance challenges, especially trees. So we do check that at site plan. So at this point, I don't believe, and I'm sure Luke could stand up, but I don't believe we have a concern, or Luke doesn't have a concern at this time that reducing it down to 10 feet would cause a sight distance challenge.
And Luke, you agree with that it would not cause any sight distance problem for the traffic, either going north or south toward Franklin on Second?
Correct.
So the new limit of the property will be the orange dotted line, correct?
So the orange dotted line is the existing property line.
Okay.
So, and then they're showing here, you'll see, I don't think my cursor works. About mid-screen there, it says 10 feet proposed setback distance. So the building here is shown at where they expect it to be located. So if they don't get approval, the building will actually shift 10 more feet further into the lot.
Okay.
So they're showing what it would look like if they were approved for the setback variance.
Okay, so I see there's a 10 feet proposed setback variance, correct?
Mhm.
And it's a total of 30 feet from the street.
Yep, from the edge of
Yeah,
the
okay.
pavement, yes,
So in fact, it's going to be the gray building that we see now.
correct.
Thank you.
Is there any plans to build this road out and make it wider? I mean, would we
So, and
think about that? or-
It's built, I believe.
the
Franklin
town,
Avenue is-
and the town just recently finished, actually, you'll see from, if you look at some of those aerial images I provided for the vicinity map, you'll note that it was dirt. Up until very recently, the town did finish paving
Mhm.
the road.
Okay. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of traffic that goes down there and the road, there's no, I mean, we would never at some point decide it needs to be wide.
Like a
or
two-lane
turn lane or
arterial?
something like
No.
that, yeah.
And Second's pretty wide to begin with, you know,
Yeah.
from a thoroughfare standpoint.
Yeah.
A lot of people cut through there to grab, avoid town.
Can you define for me what you mean by sight distance? Is that for cars? Is it for, how do you define that as a town?
So I will do my best to try to describe this. So of course, sight distance, I believe the clearance is, and Luke again can talk about the clearance, is at 20 feet?
I don't
We have,
know.
so it is defined within our development code, we have images, and it's, if you have a corner and you were to take a measurement, so you measure, we have this, I wanna say it's 30, don't quote me here. You go from the corner and it's defined at the radius, so you go in one direction 30 feet, then you go the other direction 30 feet, and you draw a line between those 2 points, and that has to be your clear sight distance. And it's so that when you approach these kind of intersections, you can truly look down, see not only vehicles, but of course pedestrians as well, and nothing's obstructing your view. And so generally, buildings, of course, can't be within that sight distance, but also, I believe our requirement is that trees cannot be placed within a sight distance.
So theoretically, if you were turning right on Franklin, then the building would just be a lot closer to the street than the rest of the zone.
Yeah. So no, so
10
this,
feet
in this case,
closer.
it will be 10 feet closer
Right.
than normal. But it's also, I think, important to understand that yes, it's going to be 10 feet closer to that north property line, but it's also meeting front setbacks, which also is key. and keeping site distance also clear.
Yeah,
So-
because on one side you have 45 feet, and on the other side you have 30 feet, correct?
From the edge of pavement, yeah, it looks like that's what they're
So-
proposing.
So in fact, the 45 feet are increasing the view. If it
Yeah,
was
yeah, if it was
30 and
It was
30,
30, yeah.
correct, you're
yeah,
right.
It would be,
It would,
yeah.
it could potentially, as it gets closer to those right of ways,
Mhm.
potentially create a hazard.
And more than likely, you wouldn't put trees on this corner because
No.
that's an
Yeah,
obstructive.
that's what I was
Right.
worried
Yeah.
about.
And we'll review that
Yeah.
as part of the site plan. This is just an exhibit for
Mhm.
visual example.
That's what I was worried about too, guys, is
Yeah.
if it looked like this with the trees, I think that would make it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's important to understand that, yeah, the parking location, trees, all, they're just showing that as part of, they're required to do a tree lawn. But, and this is just a general concept. We'll review those specific details. Cause we have like tree spacing requirements, all that good stuff comes at site plan. So again, if they were approved for the variance, that would be their next step, is to submit a site plan review application.
What's
the-
this,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
what's the setback requirement on Second Street? Is that 20 feet as well?
That would be a front setback, and I don't have my computer. I
This,
could look
that's a
that-
side, that would be a side, right?
No, that would be a front setback.
Oh, that would be the front. Oh, yeah, okay.
And yeah, off the top of my head for industrial,
Okay.
I wanna say it's 20 as well. And then the rear has a setback as well.
Is it appropriate for us to consider then, could we consider maybe as a condition of approval of the variance that if we decided to do that, that the landscape would be appropriate not to block site distances and that kind of thing?
I don't think you would need to condition it, since that's part of our review process at site plan. That's something we require, so our landscape background individual we have recently hired, that will be part of his reviews, ensuring that all site distance triangles or all site distances provided and all the information is on our site plan, reviewed and then approved. So I don't believe you would need to condition it.
Is there a stop sign there?
I believe so.
Franklin has a stop sign, seconds open all the way through.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what it works. I was just provided the other day first.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. So it would most likely be people on Second Street, that, you know, that would be driving it would be worried about more.
Are
And
there other M1 properties that concern with any kind of a variance is that it basically sets an example for everyone else to do the same thing? How many other properties could potentially be affected?
Generally, I believe variances, as long as they're meeting their criteria, I don't believe they create a precedent. The way that but yes, Aaron can speak to this.
Aaron Smith is our city attorney addressing this question.
Yeah, town attorney Aaron Smith. It's a great question. And yes, the answer to the question generally is no. As a matter of law, the granting of a variance does not set a precedent. However, what the foundation under that answer is that the uniqueness of the circumstances can't be replicated later. So the granting of a variance assumes unique situation, right? So let's say that we had a lot in this zone district that was smaller than the 50-foot minimum width. And the applicant came in, and due to that smaller than normal size of that lot, they were seeking a variance. And let's say that variance was granted. Then the next person wouldn't automatically be able to say, oh, you granted a variance to that situation. I expect to have a variance granted to me, because the board would simply say, well, your lot is not smaller than the 50-foot minimum width. So it's the uniqueness of what the applicant presents that you rest your grant of variance on, so that the next person doesn't come in and say, gosh, I was just like that situation. Does that help? So the answer is yes, generally, but it's the foundation on which you grant that variance that gives rise to that yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Todd at this time? I'm sorry, Ms. Hildebrand? No?
So I understand maybe that's a depth issue as opposed to a width issue. Can they go wider? I mean, if they wanted to go wider to get another bay in or put equipment over to the, I guess that would be the north side or whatever that is towards the alleyway.
Hey, Ethan, can you share the screen again?
Yeah.
Apologies.
So sorry, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So,
Yeah, so where the exit is of the parking lot,
Through the,
okay,
that's an alleyway, I'm assuming. Could they move the building farther towards the alley? Or is that not an option at that point?
they potentially could as long as they're meeting then that rear setback. So if there's room to allow that, they could potentially shift the building. So I see what you're saying. So narrow down the building so it's not as wide, but then lengthen it so maybe they can make up that
Right,
space.
and that's why I was asking too on that setback, I guess on the front of the building.
Yeah, so they could potentially do that as long as there's adequate setback. And I could pull up although, you know what, I think if I change. So here we go, the front setback is 25 and the rear would be 20. There's some footnotes that are exceptions, but I think those are for buffers, if I'm not mistaken. So they may not, based upon this exhibit, I
Yeah.
don't believe they would have room. Unless, I guess they could get rid of the green space that's on that east side, which however wide that may be,
Yeah,
to gain potentially some additional internal space.
yeah, that might be a safety issue, making that turn. Okay,
Well, I guess that makes me want to ask, would you be able to, or is that, we have the 45 feet on the west side of the building. Is there a possibility of,
So the 45 feet is the proposed building's distance from the edge of pavement, whereas the building setback from the property line is at 25. I think that's 25. So again, if their front setback, yes, there's, I guess, maybe a combo of the two. They could potentially shift the building to the west and then expand the rear, I suppose, if that's what you're implying.
that's what I think.
But certainly the applicant can speak to that and what their needs are,
I
and
think
yeah, if it has something,
depth of the building is, they can actually pull a vehicle in and
Right.
be
Yeah.
able to shut a door,
Yeah.
where the long side of the building is just number of bays probably.
right,
So you can ask them that question, but
41 feet seems like a lot, but when you have something in there, it's,
plus you have room for storage and parts and other machinery.
mhm,
I'm just
yeah,
curious if there are alternatives, like I think you
Yeah.
were asking too, if there's some other way to do that. And still have enough, and still meet all the setback requirements.
right.
And I noticed in our materials, there was a suggestion that had been made to the applicant regarding a possible alternative.
that's correct. So when we initially met with the applicants, we had some pre-application meetings with them, and following those discussions, I met with our Berthoud Fire District to see if there could be a potential. I think it was myself, Luke, and our fire chief, our fire marshal. And that the idea was, and what we had presented and confirmed with the fire district, is that if they could potentially reduce the width of the drive aisle, which is currently seen as 20 feet here, so reduce it down to 15 feet because the fire apparatus has a requirement for absolute width for a drive aisle. So if they were to reduce it to 15, it would still be adequate for fire truck circulation. And by doing that, then they could potentially shift the building to the south then 5 feet, because that opens up that distance. And then we said that if they could potentially then find or slice off 3 feet or 36 inches from the building, so narrowing it down by 36 inches. That would then avoid a full variance request, and it would be administrative, because an administrative variance is 10%. So in this particular case, 10% of a 20-foot setback is 2 feet. So if they shifted the building, then reduced the building down by 3 feet, that would get them in through an admin variance. So the impact would be, I guess minimal in that regard, and that we could potentially then process it administratively, meaning the development director would have the ability to approve. So we would then not have to come to public hearing and the potential, and that was a much less, a much smaller request, and staff would have been comfortable with a 2-foot variance. And so, but unfortunately, that did not work for the applicant.
Any other questions for Ms. Elbran? Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, with that, we would ask the applicant if has a presentation they would like to make. Please state your name and your address.
So Ethan will share the screen here in 1 minute, and then to advance, just hit the arrow.
My name is David Stranathan. I live at 1050, 1050 35th Street in Loveland, Colorado.
I'm Josh McCorn, live at 3531 Akron Court in Loveland, Colorado.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for being the Board of Adjustments for us tonight. Thank you, staff, and Tom, I appreciate you making that happen, even though you're sick, so we didn't have to push that back again. I know everyone wants to move forward, so we appreciate that. This evening, really, we have a success story, a local business that's been here for 15 years. They've grown, they've outgrown their space. They're ready to stop renting and move into a custom shop that they will own and operate. You've probably seen B-Town Auto's logo around town. I'm pretty sure this family supports every single event that happens in this town. It's fun to be a part of a community with such passionate business owners, and as one of those local business owners, it's really a pleasure to get to work in our own backyard. So we're excited tonight to support B-Town Auto and share with you guys what they're looking to do. In 2021, they began looking seriously into the property in question that's at the southeast corner of 2nd and Franklin. They had multiple discussions with town staff. At that time, Kurt Fries was the planner here in Berthoud. He looked into this property for them, looked at some building sizes, looked at the area around, and verified that the zoning was correct, the building size that they needed was correct, the function would work on this property. They also hired a GC to do some preliminary cost estimates to make sure that they could pull off this project. And after doing a lot of research, they decided in 2022 to go ahead and purchase this property. I don't want to bore with you with a lot of the details from 2022 till now, but I think it's only fair that everybody understands what the owners have been through, why this has taken a few years to get to this point. So after they purchased the lot, they emailed Kurt Fries saying, what do we do next? They've never done this before. They were trying to do it without professional help, trying to keep their costs down. They never received response back from Kurt, so they came to town hall to complain about town staff not responding to emails. They found out that he no longer worked here, and now Baseline Engineering had taken over the planning duties. So they started that discussion over in 2022, and they were told about the comprehensive plan and new architectural standards that were adopted, which require pulling the building towards the street, placing the parking at the rear of the building. At first, they thought that might be a big problem for the property they had just invested all their money into. But Lauren Richardson with Baseline Engineering informed them that Franklin is wider than it needs to be, and there's some right-of-way that could be vacated. Their property could actually grow, and putting the parking behind the building would probably work. They had their GC draw some site plans showing the parking at the rear of the building like we'll share with you today, and it seemed like it worked. Lauren told them they could go straight to site plan. There would be no public hearings required, and Baseline Engineering would help them move forward with vacating some right-of-way. They asked Lauren for direction on what's the next step, how do we move forward. Again, they've never done this before, they didn't know what to do next. Didn't get any response back from her email. Went to town hall to complain and found out the baseline engineering was no longer the planning department for the town of Berthoud. They also learned at that time that there's the First Street corridor plan now in place, which would require additional architectural enhancements to their building. So by this point, they're feeling pretty deflated. Every time they talked to someone, they found out the building was going to cost more to build, and they found out every year the town staff had changed. So after taking a little break, they got up the courage again and said, we got to do this. Let's find a way through this. We had talked with them before. They decided to hire us. And we said the right way to do this is go through the pre-application meeting, get everyone in the same room. Let's talk this through. We had 2 in-person meetings. We're so thankful that the town now has planning and engineering with a Town of Berthoud email address. That's great news. We're excited about that. We all talked together as a team. In the end, decided the variance is the way to go forward. So we're not here to talk about the right of way. I don't mean to drag that out. I just think it's helpful to know they tried everything they could to make sure that this property would work for them. So in regards to this variance being self-inflicted, I think that's a little heavy-handed because they did everything they could to make sure this property would work for them. As you can see here, there's a lot of local citizens, a lot of business owners have signed this letter to show their support for this variance. The letter on the left is from the business owner that's just south of the lot that's in question. They're actually excited that this development's going to happen because it will solve the drainage problem in the area. If anybody drives down Second after a heavy rain, that road is flat. The water doesn't go anywhere. So this business owner knows that this will help them out, and we're working with them to create a drainage easement, get the water off of their property, solve the problem for both businesses. The next letter is from Rapid Tooling. They're in the building that they currently share right now. And the letter says here, if B-Town can't get this to work out and move out of that building, Precision's gonna run out of room and they're gonna move to Longmont or Loveland. So as you can see here, really, if this variance is approved, we've got 2 businesses in town, they're gonna stay in town, they're both gonna grow, they're both gonna employ more people. It's a win-win, really. The top center image here is a recent drone photo, so you can see that Franklin was built out. As mentioned, the sidewalk on the north side has now been finished. Town of Berthoud Water Department worked with us. We got a water tap installed for this business just days before that street was paved, so we wouldn't have to cut it open here when we move forward. And this is only one of the few vacant lots. There's maybe 3 in the entire town that are already zoned M1 or M2 that are vacant. So there's really no other options for where these guys could go and build their shop. There really aren't. So in regards to other people coming with this variance, there's not going to be anyone else that's been trying to do this since 2021 that has an M1 lot. It's not going to come up. So we have Josh take it from here.
Thank you.
Hi there. First, I'd like to speak to the uniqueness of this lot. We just want to show that it's not a self-inflicted hardship. Anytime you're doing infill development, it's always going to be more difficult. You have a lot that's basically a remnant left over from other site plan processes, right? So the hardship in developing this lot is that we have this existing business. They're looking to move across the street, stay in a same market that they're currently in, with their established customers, and utilize this lot that's in this location. Now, with anytime you're dealing with infill development, there's lots of benefits of it that we're going to describe here. As you can see, lowering the cost of development for the town, developer, and Berthoud residents. It reduces infrastructure. We've already have the roads, utilities, and transit routes in place. As well as we're helping to increase community connectivity, health by promoting walkability. B-Town, when people bring their vehicles in, they can easily walk to downtown from this location. If they move to the edge of town and develop a new lot that requires additional infrastructure, their clients, their customers aren't going to be able to just, pop over to other stores, which is basically the entire downtown within a 10-minute walk. If you look at this slide, you can see the circle there represents a 10-minute walking distance from their building, and that encompasses the entire downtown of Berthoud. The other thing that this helps reduce sprawl, and it helps keep people in a vibrant downtown area. It'll also reduce devastation of additional habitat, natural resources, things like that. With all the existing infrastructure and water quality in place, it'll help maintain that as well. And the other thing it does, which is very important, it helps the town attract new businesses because they're able to see that, oh, you've got an existing business here, you're taking care of them, you're doing what you can to help them stay here. In this next slide, we're going to show how, while we don't, we're asking for a variance on the setback, this does meet the intent of the comprehensive plan. The Innovation District, which it's in here, says that it is designed to continue to support existing technical businesses and production uses. And the achievable goal, which we pulled from the comprehensive plan, says to incentivize infill development, adaptive reuse, and redevelopment of underutilized or vacant properties. And with any infill lot, there's often a reason that it's vacant. Infill lots are traditionally difficult to develop. So because either they're narrow, they don't fit a lot of specific uses. Circulation-wise, they're difficult to make all these things happen. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here on this project. Again, while we're not meeting that numerical value of the setback, we are meeting the intent of the comprehensive plan. Next, you can see here, Ton had this up as well. You can see that the current location will be the top one up there. They're in the M2 zoning, moving right across the street to the M1 zoning. And the table on the left shows M1, the corner side, a 20-foot setback. And the table on the bottom right shows that automotive service and repair, both minor and major, are both uses allowed by right in this zoning area. And so we have the site plan, concept site plan that Ton had up earlier. I added a couple site distance triangles just to clarify that, what Ton was speaking to earlier. The site distance triangle that the town of Berthoud uses, that Ton described, is from the northwest corner, 30 feet to the east and then 30 feet to the south. You can see that the building is well out of that, so it does not encroach in that. So we do meet the intent of the town's code for the reason for having such a setback. We've also included all the engineering required site distance triangles per the Larimer County urban area standards on there. And you can see that our building is also, nowhere close to encroaching on those. And what I'd also like to point out, so the building we're proposing is 30 feet from the edge of pavement. If you look at the building to the north of Franklin, it's only 33 and a half feet there. So the right-of-way, you can see their right-of-way, they're actually a little bit over 20 feet, I believe is 21 feet, is how far their building is set back from the right-of-way, which would be that dashed line on the top there. And ours proposed is setback 10 feet. Now so you can see that there's a 20 foot from the road to where the property line starts on ours. So while we're only 3.5 feet closer than the building to the north, our property line is closer. So the right-of-way is offset onto this lot. So while the right-of-way is not offset equally from the center line of the road. The road section as it is out there now, it's 34-foot roadway with the section is actually like a 58-foot right-of-way. And for that particular section, the right-of-way as it is 67 feet. So again, we're not here trying to vacate right-of-way or anything like that. All we're asking is that, since we're within the intent of the code, that we be allowed, this numerical variance, so to speak. Where you can see it there as well, where it says 20-foot corner setback per town code from the orange line shows where that 20-foot would be. And the 10-foot setback shows, that's where our building is from the orange line. And then the 9 feet up above that shows that space is what it would actually be if it was the roadway section that was constructed out there. So essentially, we're only a foot off what was supposed to be constructed out there. It was just, that extra 7-foot dedication for, how the roadway was classified in 2013, and that, roadway classification must have changed, and a different section was built now. So that right-of-way is what's pushing the setback further onto that lot, if that makes sense. And then as far as to try and speak to your questions earlier about the depth of the building, we've included this exhibit on the right of this slide. So this shows what your typical bay is going to look like. And I'm not the architect here, so if you have real questions, David can do this one. So.
Yeah, we showed this diagram just to lay out what the shop needs are for a bay. This one in particular is for alignment, and the lift is designed to handle a full-size long bed truck. That's part of their client base. There's a lot of drive-through Berthoud High School. There's a lot of long bed pickup trucks in this town. So that's what they need to have to serve their clients. And we're showing the toolbox against the north wall there. We have a couple 3-foot circles. That's what code requires as clearance. We can never be less than 3 feet for people moving around. And then the computers that are on wheels that they need to roll around so the technician can be at the wheels while they're at the computer. So we've slimmed this building down to 41.6 feet because that is the absolute minimum that we can provide that 3-foot clearance and the lift that they need to service the trucks for the clients that they have. So we really have made it as small as possible.
And we've included the little photo up there so you can see how little room there is, around a vehicle lift like that. There's not a ton of room to get around there anyway. So, like David said, we really slimmed this down, and then, the structure of the building as well, the support columns and things like that on the interior of the wall also play into that as well. There's, no way to move those or put anything in that space there.
I can speak to the 15-foot driveway too.
Yeah.
Just to bring it up, it was nice that the fire marshal offered a 15-foot drive lane. We did do the turning radius of a full-size truck into the shop bay. It wouldn't work functionally, so they would have just been in tricky situations with a client's vehicle trying to get into a bay that was too tight. Also, the fire marshal said if we went to that 15-foot one way, we would have to fire sprinkle the building, which our GC said would be about $150,000 cost. So at this point, the money they've put into this, the budget they started with, the building's already costing more than they thought it would in 2021. Everything keeps going up. We decided let's keep that 20-foot lane. It's best for operations. We can avoid the fire sprinkler system and try to get this project done.
And then just to I'll reiterate the fact, so our building is not closer than normal to the street. It's just that the, with the right-of-way as it's offset to the south on this lot, pushes the setback further. So the right-of-way in this case is wider than normal on this property side, and we're only 3.5 feet closer to the street than the building that they currently occupy to the north there. And here's a section that we put together just to further kind of illustrate what this would look like, give you an idea. 30 feet is a pretty fair distance. So the width of the roadway, we're nearly that far away, again, from the street there. To the north, their building is the 33.5 off of the edge of the street, and our proposed is 30. And then you can see where the 10-foot setback, and if the right-of-way were the 58-foot for the roadway that was constructed, that would be another 9 feet to the north. So really, we'd only be asking for a 1-foot variance at that point, which would have been administrative. But again, we're not trying to vacate any right-of-way. We're just trying to explain this uniqueness of this situation. This is the first time we've dealt with the right-of-way being this far in, and having that big of a right-of-way from the roadway edge, where we have nearly 20 feet from the edge of the road before their property starts. So that's a unique situation, and that's really what's causing this hardship and why we're here today requesting this variance.
Thank you.
Commissioners, questions of the applicant?
They answered my questions on, shaving 5 feet off the driveway, and when you're trying to back a 20-foot truck out in a 15-foot driveway, and then you've got customer parking or other vehicles that are waiting to go in to be serviced. Yeah, I think you've done the best you can do with it.
And I appreciate you showing us the actual bays and how big they need to be in order to be able to run the business. How many bays will be in this building?
We're hopeful for 10 bays here.
10 bays.
How many are in your current building? The current building?
8.
So
We have 2 buildings, so
there you go.
6 in our current building, and then we actually have to use a remote location right now because just how busy we luckily are. Got to use a remote location where we have 2 guys, which we'd like to get back in our same building for tons of.
So with its expanded spaces, aside from being in 2 locations, will this require you to hire more people as well?
Yes, we've actually unfortunately had to turn people away currently just because of the situation we're in. We're maxed out, but we have luckily time to quite a few people that want to work in the industry.
Thank you.
So you're gonna keep the 3 businesses, correct?
One more time?
No,
Sorry,
the 3 locations.
you're gonna treat,
No, we're gonna condense down to hopefully, ideally, 1 location. That way everybody's in the same shop. We will still have that remote spot if we need it for space, but we shouldn't, hopefully, our biggest thing too is having 2 guys alone in 1 shop, safety wise,
comments, if we can have them come to the podium so we
Oh,
can
yeah.
have that on recording, that would be ideal.
And state their name. That's important for the record.
Thank you. Okay, so let me ask you then, you mentioned, you show us what the bays look like here and the size of the bays. Obviously, these seem to be industry standard. You had mentioned that there's certain industry standards for different equipment that needs to be in that bay, correct?
That's correct, yes. The
Make sure I
the lifts
understand.
are a standard industry item, the equipment that goes with them is standard, the toolbox sizes, the depth of a toolbox is a standard item. So we just took the toolbox depth, the 3-foot clearance, the lift, 3-foot clearance behind it, and pushed the building as tight as it could.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that what you're saying is that because of your industry and how your business works, because of these standards, you have a unique situation.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, and here the question is not the width, it's the length of the.
Yeah.
The depth.
Really the important piece here.
And if you were forced to shrink the building, the length, could you reconfigure where toolboxes go? And, I mean, if you had to.
So if you look at the diagram of the service bay, if you look in the top right corner, there's like an upside down T.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the support columns, right, to basically an I-beam.
For the building.
So you can see how far that sticks out, and the toolbox is actually, pushed back in between those, right? So it's laid out about as efficiently as can be done at this point. We're utilizing like every little bit of space to make it, to squeeze it down as much as we could. That's why we have, kind of this odd width of 41.6 feet and not like your typical 50 like you would see in a metal building.
We did look at angling the lifts. That's what they've had to do with the current location now. So you drive through a wider door, you have 2 angled lifts, but then you have a dead space in the middle. Also had people run into the door. This is really the safest way to do it. It's what the industry recommends.
Okay.
And you said, who recommends? What's the?
Just the auto mechanics industry, if you just look up these shop bays, this is the way they recommend putting it. They're all are alternates to turn it, but you then need a door that's twice as wide. So then you'd have less bay doors, you've got less utilization of space. So if we were to do that in this building, and we did do that layout, they would have less lifts than they currently have now in the 2 buildings they're operating out of. It just wouldn't have been worth their efforts.
Questions, comments, commissioners of the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I would open,
I actually have my name down. I got here late, if that's okay
That's
to
fine.
speak.
just a second, you have to open the public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Anyone else that would like to speak from the public, please sign in here at the lectern. Is there anyone else that would like to do that? Okay, great. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. All right. So I see John
Cook.
Cook, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Please. And could you state your name and your address for the record?
My name is John Cook. I live at 7100 Hygiene Road, which is in Hygiene, just west of Longmont. I'm a 5th generation Boulder County. My great-grandfather was the first sheriff of Boulder County, and I'm a general contractor and a developer. I developed the northeast corner of Hover and 17th Avenue, which was a 30-acre, 40-acre infill project, and dealt a lot with the city on that, of course, and anywhere from traffic lights to setbacks to all kinds of stuff. And this layout on this building, if you look at it, 2nd Street's your busy street. So people coming from town can take a right in. They can go one way, And since they allowed to split the property line, so now there's just one, so when the lot develops closest to First Street, they're not gonna have a curb cut. This one isn't gonna have a curb cut, it's shared. So it's a right in and it's a right out to get to First Street. The traffic flow is, I mean, this is ideal. This is really ideal of what you strive for, what community planners strive for. You don't have your entrances right next to it, and anymore, any other municipalities, you couldn't put it used to be, well, I did like where Walgreens is and all that stuff. If you look now, Walgreens or CVS or any of those, they're off the corner, right? Because they want the people to be able to have time to take a ride in, and then they have traffic flow where they can take a ride out. And I really think that this is a very, very good layout. The sight distance on the corners, the amount of landscaping, the drainage there is horrible. I mean, it's horrible. Before they got Franklin Street done, we're talking 3-4 foot piles of water. The lady that left the note there, the construction company next door, they have a piece of plastic corrugated pipe hooked to their downspout, and it dumps and empties into this lot. So this lot is essentially, it's a detention pond. So, this really helps that whole corridor get the water out to First Street, because then from there it goes down the bar ditches. But, infill projects, like I said, mine was a big infill project, but the traffic flow of this, same thing for trash trucks. They're oil collection people, right? They're not having trucks having to come out the same way people are coming in on Second Street that's busy. They turn it right in, they come around the building, back right up if you see where the dumpster pad is and the enclosure. It's just everything flows easily. That distance between the parking spot and the building, I think maybe one of you touched on it. I mean, you shrink that down, and somebody, an older lady trying to back her car out of there, or, heck, me, I'm getting that way too. Thank God these new cars have alarms and everything to tell us when we're about ready to hit something. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted. Just wanted to give you my stuff. My father was the vice president of Lehman Publications, and that's the Reporter Herald. So for 40 years, he was a big part of that. So we've been in this community, and my dad served here a lot of times. So that's it. I just want to appreciate, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak on this item, on this application? No? All right, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, at this point in our meeting, it's the board will discuss what we've heard. But I'd like to start though with looking at, if we could, Ethan, if we could go back to the slides that show us the criteria. And then we'll start with each criteria and go through each one. Okay. You read these and then we'll discuss, all right? To authorize variances from terms of Chapter 30-3 zoning, where strict enforcement of this title would create a situation which would result in unreasonable application of these standards. The Board of Adjustment shall consider whether criteria A, B, and C are met, and either D or E. All right, so let's take a look at A. A is such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the neighborhood or the public good, and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of this code.
I would say yes.
Do you think that they meet that?
I would think so.
Actually improves.
You get proofs?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, because of the drainage. All right, so let's look at B. Provided that there are exceptional circumstances applying to the specific piece of property, which do not generally apply to the remaining property in the same zoning area or neighborhood. Are there exceptional circumstances?
Yes.
What would you say those are?
Well, it's an outlet, right? So you're trying to build something in the middle of something. It's not like you have It's not like you're starting with a blank slate. You're just trying to develop something within an area that's already been developed, a piece of it. I mean, I think that's
The
what-
offset as well from
Yeah.
the property across the street creates a, difficult situation to
Right.
manage.
I also was wondering about the industry that they're in
Yeah.
has
Right.
certain
Very
requirements.
specific
Yeah.
requirements, yeah.
And if they're going, that are their standard, so if you're gonna be able to operate that business there, I think that causes something that gives me pause as far as exception.
You probably could shrink it a little bit, but it's not gonna matter. It's a foot, 6
Yeah.
inches, whatever. I mean, you need to be able to walk around those vehicles safely.
Yeah.
Especially on the left.
Yeah, and if you shrink the alley, there's gonna be more accident inside the parking lot than on the street.
I still think the parking lot will be tight. That'll be tight getting in and out of, but I
Yeah.
think for what it's worth, the building itself will meet the requirements specifically for that industry.
So so that we're all clear on that for the record, let's restate those, what we think are the exceptional circumstances, right? We said the lot itself and how it's juxtaposed against the lot across the street, that was
Mhm.
one. What was the second one that I missed there that you mentioned?
Setback.
The setback, the way it jogs there, it's not an exact, the other property across the street is closer to the property line. And it makes the setback jog because it was existing before.
Because you're saying kind of an irregular setback.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one. We're saying the industry that the applicant's in causes them to have a certain space for a bay. Okay, so that's 3. Do we have, sorry, Aaron's listening here. Am I not speaking loud enough?
Oh, it's just very difficult to hear
Oh.
Commissioner Brody.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll
Yeah.
slide up a little bit.
And the rest of you are doing fine, it's just my
Okay.
hearing.
Okay.
Okay, so we have that third one. Is there anything else that supports that this is an exceptional circumstance?
No, but I think it's enough.
You think that's enough? Okay, so are we saying then, is our consensus that they meet B?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so let's look at C then. That the requested variance shall not authorize any permanent use not permitted in the zoning district.
I think the applicants addressed that as well. in their
Yep.
presentation.
The zoning does permit automotive use, so that one you'd have to say they've met that one. Okay. If the hardship on which the request for variance is based in whole or in part self-inflicted, that will be a highly significant fact, which is a material element bearing on the issue, and will weigh heavily against the owner or applicant seeking the variance. Is the hardship self-inflicted? I think that's what the question here becomes.
I don't think so.
I mean, if you're trying to build something to a requirement, a minimum requirement, it's not like they're making the building 10 feet bigger because they're trying to do business in that building. And we certainly want to encourage that business to stay. And I don't think that, like I said, I think you can shrink the building a little bit, but it's not going to be significant. It's not going to make much of a difference. And it's inches.
I agree with that.
So you're saying because of the nature of the business and the requirements to be able to operate the business there, that that's not something that they caused themselves.
Right.
They're trying to meet an industry standard. It's not self-inflicted. Is
Right.
that, is there one?
And also, they did a lot of research on this early on with the town. Now, maybe the zoning changed during that time frame, or something changed during the time. Obviously, the 7-foot dedication changed, but that has nothing to do, in my mind, with anything. That's part of the business of building. But there was some research done. It wasn't like they just came in overnight and said, hey, we want to build this and we want a variance.
Okay, so would everyone agree with what what Board Member Simodalis is saying? And that would be that the harm, or the hardship is not self-inflicted, based on kind of their set of circumstances with this industry. Does that sum it
Mhm.
correctly? Okay. Do we all agree with that? Okay, so first, we have to summarize what we've said so far. We believe that they've met A, B, and C, that they have also met D, and they only have to meet A, B, C, and either D or E, as I understand it. So with that, am I correct in assuming that we believe that they've met the criteria for
Yes.
variance?
Yeah.
So that's our consensus?
Yep.
Okay. So with that then, is there any other discussion we want to have about this particular application?
Just for the record, I would say it meets E as well, so it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
That's what I was-
You're right, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, so, no other discussion or anything else we want to point out about this particular application? The one thing I would just like to emphasize is that, knowing that this is going to be looked at again, particularly when it comes to the landscape, that still bothers me a little bit about
Right.
from a safety standpoint, that I would hope that our applicant kind of heard what we said about that,
Mhm.
and will be willing to work with the city to make sure that we have good sight lines there, and that the landscaping is amenable to safety in that area.
Yeah.
All right.
Chainsaw.
Then with that, I would entertain a motion with regard to this application.
Go ahead.
okay, I would make a motion. Do I need to read this? The Board of Adjustment moves to approve the B-Town Automotive setback variance for a proposed commercial building to be located 10 feet from the north side corner property line, where 20 feet is required, subject to the following conditions. 1, the plans contained in the application materials are the limits of the approval. Any changes to the approved plans may necessitate a new variance request. 2, this variance is only for buildings or structures as submitted with the variance application. All future buildings or additions must go through the proper town review and permit process prior to construction. 3, this variance shall commence within 6 months of the time such variance is granted. Otherwise, the variance shall be null and void in accordance with section 33108B3 of the Berthoud Municipal Code.
Okay, so, board member, I keep wanting to call us commissioners, we're not there yet. So, board member Pond made the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Board member Simodalis seconded the motion. Can we please take the roll?
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Pond,
Yes.
Commissioner Brody,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigmund, absent, Vice Chair Smith is out, Commissioner Simodalis,
Yes.
and Chair Anderson.
Yes. So with that, the motion passes. All right. Is there any other business for the Board of Adjustments at this time? Think so? With that, then, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Adjustments meeting for February 13th, 2025.
My motion to adjourn.
Board Member Simodalis moves to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mark, you haven't gotten a second tonight.
I'll second
So, Board Member Brody seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. We are adjourned. Okay. Does anyone, do we need 5 minutes before we?
Yeah.
Bye, Ray.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 5 minutes and we'll be back. Start the next meeting.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
papers here, guys, in a second. Stay organized.
What are we talking about now?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay,
there's another one that was recommended by Brett.
We're gonna talk about how you're
That
gonna
is
get home.
when you.
Right,
go
I'm
to
probably gonna start
Loveland,
walking because she didn't
No.
realize it's gonna be an hour to the airport and an hour back.
my.
We
poor
can
thing.
figure it
That's a
Self-inflicted, I told her she should have
then
taken a direct
continue
flight.
on the right, it's a dirt road.
For that exact reason, especially on Southwest. Yeah, no, I won't tell her that, but you can all just tell me between us.
Yeah.
You are on public record, so
Right.
Southwest might be.
She's watching us on YouTube right now.
Hearing every word you're saying.
She'll see me walking down Berthoud Parkway and just bump me right off into the ditch probably.
No, she's more loving-hearted than that. She would just.
No, you'd be surprised.
she would just-
Maybe swing the door open as she's
Yeah.
driving by.
Yeah.
Bump you, she'd
Sorry.
be on the sidewalk.
It'll be fine.
All right, so. At this time, we are opening the Plan Commission meeting for February 13th, 2025. What I would ask is leave to use the roll call from Board of Adjustments meeting, since they're the same
Yeah,
people, to use that roll call for this meeting as well.
Mhm.
And since we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, we are going to skip that for now. Right. With that, I would ask the commissioners if they have any changes to the minutes from December 12th or January 23rd.
Nope.
Okay, so I'd ask for leave to do a motion to approve both sets of minutes at the same time. Is that all right? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes from the set from December 12th and the set from January 23rd. I have a motion to approve?
I'm gonna let you guys do that. I wasn't here, so.
I wasn't here for the 23rd either,
Yeah.
so
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. So David, excuse me. Commissioner Pond moves to approve both sets of minutes. Do I have a second? Okay, and Commissioner Hoffman seconds. So all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye. Opposed, nay, and abstentions. Okay, so those minutes are approved. Now, that was our only business for this evening for the Plan Commission, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn the Plan Commission. Well, before I do that, let me ask if staff has any reports for the Plan Commission. Okay.
Staff's just making it through the night.
Yeah.
They are playing hurt.
Other than, yes, I'm Ethan Matson, I am the new planner. It's nice to meet you all. Thank you for letting me join.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I love that our Plan Commission is growing. That's great. Or I should say our development department is growing. So that is wonderful. But y'all can't get sick at the same time, right? Okay. Not working.
Commissioners are growing too. We have a new baby as well, don't we?
Oh, yes, we
Yes.
do. We have a new baby. Yep, new commissioner baby. All right, so, all right, with that, unless there's not any staff reports, no plan commissioner reports, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the plan commission meeting.
I move to adjourn the planning commission meeting.
So Commissioner Semadalis moves to adjourn the plan commission meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So Commissioner Brody seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, abstentions. All right, good. All right, so the plan commission's over, meeting's over. Now, we are going to, at 7:26, convene the Housing Steering Committee. And because of illness and lack of stakeholder attendance after the meeting, I would ask that we continue this meeting until February 27th. So do we have a motion to continue the Housing Steering Committee work session?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so Commissioner, yeah, I guess in this case, we are commissioners again. So Commissioner moves to continue the Housing Steering Committee meeting until February 27th. Do I have a second?
Yes.
We have a second. It's Commissioner Hoffman second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Nays and abstentions. All right, so with that, I'm going to adjourn the work session. I don't think we have to have a motion for that. We are adjourned. Done. Thank you, everyone, for your indulgence. And I know you need signatures. I think Nick and I have to sign the minutes.
That's what speaker.
Oh, I see.
So I'm trying to find where it's